All right, we're going to go on to our next topic. It's going to be going to rental stores in the 90s.
Oh, man, what a fun conversation. There's no better way to age ourselves in this conversation here. Going to rental stores. It was a different time. It's one of those things that is completely dead. It is weird to think. I think the other day I said to my kids, I was like, oh, this was like a Blockbuster thing. And they're like, what's Blockbuster? And I was like, no. Oh, like that. Don't what? You don't know. And it's just one of those things where it's such a lost art so fast, right? We talk about, like in the last podcast we just did, was like we talked about old video games, how they can be generational and people are still going back to them. But it's like certain things like 90s rental stores and the experience we had, it's dead with new generations. It's not a thing. Yeah. I want to know what was your childhood rental as far as a game? What was your childhood rental as far as movies? I mean, I feel like an old man alone being like, kids will just never know the feeling of going and being like, recommend me a movie, and they give you a movie and you see box art and you're just like,
all they see is Redbox now. That's it.
Not even that, dude. Not even.
That's
Netflix.
Crazy. Yeah, actually, that's crazy.
And they see it like the kids.
Right.
Yeah, it's not. There's the
But
excitement.
yeah, like what was like one of those experiences at being at a rental store?
First of all, what was your rental store of choice?
Blockbuster was down. I'm thinking of like when we lived in Texas, it was like down the road, and my brother and I would go. Like he got an N64 for Christmas, and he got to pick one game, and it was Mario 64. We went to Blockbuster, and like we played together all the time. So we picked out Ocarina of Time, and we were like, let's just try this one, and we loved it so much. He would like mark on it, and when it would be returned, we'd go back and check it out again and know like that's our one with maybe our save state on it or a save place on it.
Smart little vandalism trick.
Which is bad. Don't do that, kids.
They can't.
They can't.
Don't worry about it.
They can't do that. So yeah, then we got like Banjo-Kazooie and Turok, like all these, because back then, I mean, video games are $60 now, but they were $60 back then too, which was like
some even more.
Way out of, I mean, back then that's a ton of money. Yeah, some even more. So they were expensive. So renting them was like your chance to try them out, play games that you can't afford. So yeah, that was my experience. I loved it. He's so nostalgic. Nothing better than going to Blockbuster and picking out a movie and a game.
Just what an experience to walk into and like just
browse.
You it's interesting now because when people have game rooms too, a lot of times, you know, games are faced, you know, on the sides. You're seeing the spines of them now. A lot of game rooms because of space. But in Blockbuster, you're walking in, and 9 times out of 10, depending on the layout, they were face out. So you could see every game and its full artwork and its full, you know, even VHSs and their full artwork just displayed half the time for you to see. It was like I feel like video game companies that were making stuff, they got to like display their art in a completely different way than just the game. Because right now it's like, what's the game? I'll download it, right? It's like the art of it being an art of the physical form is gone.
Yeah.
But back then, I feel like these people who are designing these covers are getting such another level of acknowledgement at these stores because people are going in and staring at them. If anything, examining them, right? Because you're picking it up and you're basing, if you're going to spend your money or your mom and dad's money on what it looks like. So you're digging, you're reading everything, you see everything, look at the character, that looks cool, that looks scary, you know, and you decide. So it's beautiful. I'm a little.
Did you have any? Did you guys like have any other stores other than Blockbuster as like rental stores near
Video
you?
$1.
Like a local?
I had a Well, when I kept hung on to the rental stores and supported until the very, very end. Even up until I was living in Vegas at the time, and it was 2000. I want to say 9, and they still had a Hollywood Video.
Nice.
And I would go every single weekend to rent movies. I wasn't renting games at that point, but I would go there. Every weekend, rent movies. And funny story was Netflix at that time. I don't know if they were founded in Las Vegas, but I was doing real estate at the time, and we were managing commercial buildings. I was a manager for one of them. Netflix was one of our tenants, actually.
Whoa.
And that was when Netflix was just doing the mail-in stuff.
Yeah.
They hadn't switched to the streaming. And I remember being like, what is this company, Netflix? Meanwhile, every weekend I'm going to Hollywood Video, and then I was like, wait, this company you can like mail in? And I never did it, but I was like, that's a pretty cool concept. Like, that's pretty awesome. And again, they were a tenant, and they were like, we're doing that shipping thing. And then I think it must have been maybe 2010, 11, 12, they must have switched to the streaming. And it was over like that for like Blockbuster, Hollywood Video. I just remember it was just done.
It's weird. The end was right around the corner for them. And they didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like the end of your
so quick.
mega business was going for is right around the corner. You know, it'd be like being a mom and pop retail shop, and this little thing called Amazon pops up little down the street, and you're like, oh, it's this little small thing. And before you know it, just takes over and wipes everything out.
And I was amazed when we moved here to California. So which was 6 years ago for me, from the East Coast. In the East Coast, there was no rental stores left. Coming out here, there was still a few hanging on. Even in Huntington Beach, there was Jungle Video.
Yeah, I
that was
remember
over
Jungle
there.
Video.
That they just went under like a couple years ago.
That wasn't long ago.
I know, they hung on for a long
And
time.
I remember they had great, like a great sign. The sign was cool. I remember the sign was cool.
It's still up. Yeah, it's still there. And I think even around here, there are still some rental. Is there any around you guys? Are there any left?
There was one in Long Beach like 6 months ago.
They've slowly, unfortunately, like
No, they're done now. They're done.
Yeah, and I've Googled some to like go, and they'll still show up on Google. And then I've driven to them, and I'm like, oh, they're not here anymore. They disappeared. So
Yeah.
I would love to go rent like a movie. I still would love to do it.
Experience.
Yeah.
Isn't there one left in Bend, Oregon? Am I wrong?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
One
like the
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
They call
right?
it the longest lasting.
Oh.
The,
Okay.
the last Blackbuster on Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's kind of their marketing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of lean into that. Ricky, do you have any like?
I was gonna say, what's your? I want to know your childhood rental. Like, what's the one you went to and got every week?
So my childhood rental, it just reminds me of my dad, because when I was a kid, weekends were with my dad, and then during the week I was with my mom. So my dad would always try to make a blast for me. So every weekend I would go to the same video game store, Sky Video.
Video Ski?
Video Ski. I used to call it Video Ski because I was a kid. I didn't know what the guy was talking, but it was just, I loved it. I loved going there. My dad, I know he's trying to make like the best day.
Yeah.
So he just, I got to pick out whatever game I wanted. I'm like, dude, so good.
What was your rental? What was your game?
It's a weird one because I always go back between Art of Fighting, Street Fighter, and I already had Donkey Kong and all the ones I wanted.
You are a fighting game guy.
Yeah, he is.
And I don't know why I always pick
I
those.
feel like that would make sense as a rental though too, because it's a pick up and play.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can pick up and play it versus like
Limited
renting some
time.
mega RP Ocarina of
Right.
Time.
I know how far
Where you gotta vandalize it.
I think we just got like Epona, and then it was like we had
And
to
you're like,
return
oh,
it. We're
that's
like,
gotta go back. And then somebody gets it and races your save file. You're like, dang.
Gosh, yeah.
About that, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It was frustrating.
That's a tough
Mine
one.
was Legend of Kage on the NES was a big rental for me, which is so stupid. I don't know why I would rent that all the time. And Contra 3.
Legend of Cage?
Kage.
Kage.
Cage.
Excuse me, newbie. It's Kage.
Cage.
It's Kage.
I think it's Cage.
We have a friend who did a whole history report on it. It's Kage.
I read it the same way.
Yeah, he did. He's a historian. He literally did a whole video on the lore of Legend of Kage.
You're probably right.
And when I heard it, trust me, I was like, oh.
no,
my whole
I figured
life.
you were right. I was like, I just got to see if that's correct. So it was Kage.
Yeah,
And he
Kage.
did a report on that.
Yeah.
That's
Dude,
funny.
he just got one.
Knuckles is gone.
Now, Ashley, did you ever rent a Harry Potter movie?
Oh,
at the-
wait. Let's see it. Let's toss Ashley a ball. She's been big for all you guys that know.
It's okay. You don't have to.
She's
No,
a
no.
huge Lord of the
please.
Rings and Harry Potter nerd.
This-
all right, wait, how about right now?
basement is decked out in Lord of the Rings and Harry
Which is
Potter.
better? There's a right answer, and there is a right answer. Like if you answer it wrong, you can walk out now.
Better how?
Better. It's better. Hey, you get
I
to
don't
see
like
one.
the Harry Potter movies. I will just put that out there. I don't think they're a faithful adaptation to the books. The books were my obsession. So that is that's
Rent that at
in that
Blockbuster?
regard.
You
Lord
read
of the
that at
Rings-
Blockbuster. Chris said it right. So Lord of the Rings wins.
Sorry. Lord of the Rings blows Harry Potter out of the water. The movies, at least, those were. I saw every single one like 5 times in the theater and just was obsessed. And I loved the books. Loved it. That was like my entire personality for like a good 5 years. Just I loved Lord of the Rings. And then Harry Potter is so. Have you guys read them? Has anyone read them? Have you guys read them?
I had my mom read
You
them.
read-
I try to avoid witchcraft.
To you?
No,
Ricky said he tries to avoid witchcraft.
dude, since I'm out of school now, I had my mom used to do like my book report, so she would do the Harry Potter stuff.
Get out of
I didn't know
here.
you
Yeah.
could read. I don't
Okay, I guess
read.
Everyone's illiterate.
Wait,
Um,
very.
I mean,
very.
I read
How do
Lord of
you
the
read?
Rings.
You did. Okay,
Yeah,
you don't
Lord
know
of the
how to
Rings
read.
books are incredible, and
They're
I felt
amazing.
like that was
I don't know how to learn to read good.
You hold Lord of the Rings.
that was the best movie adaptation I
Yes.
feel of anything. I didn't read Harry Potter, so I can't
That's okay.
compare it. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm storming out now. No.
Yeah, did you have?
We're
did you
glad
have,
that you
like,
got that out.
No. Lord of the Rings is.
Is there any
so
other like
faithfully
things you wanted to say
adapted.
about Harry Potter before
It's just wonderful.
Can you tell me like something, one really nerdy thing? Just I know you've been wanting to talk about Harry
Yeah.
Potter.
No, it's okay. Well,
Give me something really
you know,
nerdy. What's Dingledorf's
Dingledorf?
name? Is that, I really don't know his name.
TJ never read the books, and my husband, and he'll call him Dumbledorf because it's Dumbledore.
Oh, I really thought it was Dingledorf.
It's
I actually thought it was Dingledorf.
Is that the bald one with the ears?
I thought it was 2.
No.
It's
No,
not
okay.
Dingledorf.
No, it's
I thought it was Dingledorf.
Dingledorf.
But I will say, Dingledorf. I'm giving you a pay cut. Just kidding.
Oh no!
No.
Retainer.
I can't. What is that retainer? No. I think they're just such beautifully. They're very, very well written. I think they're beautifully written, beautiful story about so much more. It's that depth. I'm a big story nerd, so I love like a good, lots of lore, lots of depth, lots of story, lots of character development. So those are all up my alley, and I just think it's great. And I love
good.
it. And they're doing a TV adaptation. I think they're doing every book as a season of TV, and they're because I didn't really ever like the movie, so I'm really excited for those.
Now,
in my nerdy way,
you are
'Cause they're
excited. Do you
because
know
they're
who-
adapting them really faithfully, apparently, to the books.
I was gonna say, because that can also be the biggest scary thing is when they adapt something
I
you love, because
know.
you're like, oh, and then they just ruin it,
Oh,
and it happens all the time.
worst.
Did you ever read Wheel of Time? Did you
Oh,
read it?
yeah.
Oh, you
Oh, yeah.
did? Yes.
Oh, yeah,
I have
I
to
love-
fist bump
yes.
you. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
do have the series out right
What
now.
did you
Wheel
think
Time.
of-
I enjoy it because I just
Okay.
kind of pushed that aside.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
welcome back
Okay.
to Pixel Book Club.
Whoops, sorry.
Because
I
when you
keep
said
hitting
you
this.
love in-depth and character development,
I do
Wheel
love
of
that.
Time to me is like
That's
the
so
most
great.
the best masterpiece.
I love
Yeah, I
Wheel
love
of
renting
So
Fortune.
great.
movies. I love renting
It was
movies. It's
so
fun.
great.
We're gonna do our own
Blockbuster,
podcast.
Hollywood
Geek
Video
out,
was really
guys.
good.
Geek out later.
Let's
Okay,
let's
You guys
wrap
are-
it in.
Time.
Hey, you guys are done. We're gonna continue the podcast.
Definitely the listeners at home just got a mouthful of audio. All right. So anyway, we're gonna talk about like maybe like an experience or like a movie that you rented at these rental stores. Do you guys have like a very good experience?
I think two things to really point out that were always big for me in rental stores were this is just two funny things. First of all, horror movies. And not even renting them, but I just remember so many of the covers were so vile that as a kid I would walk by and be like, whoa.
Yeah.
And some of them like really stick in my head, like The Dentist, or even just the iconicness of, of It, which is with the red letters, or Amityville Horror, Halloween with the stabs. But it's always the funky B horror movies that had like the next level, like freaky looking cover arts. Those were always huge to me. And I just have to point it out, just because we have to point it out, and none of you pretend like you didn't. You can probably didn't. But as a child, looking at the beads in the room you're not allowed to enter, and you're like, what's back there? And then your first time when someone walked in, you saw the beads swaying, and you're like, oh mom, that's what's back there.
I wish you would have done the Arkansas figure. Oh mom!
And then from then on, every time you walk by, you're just like,
Were they were those at Blockbusters? Did Blockbuster?
No,
maybe
they were at rental
initially-
stores.
Rental
Rental
stores,
stores.
but maybe Blockbusters.
I don't think
stayed away from
Blockbuster
that.
per se did them, but
I think
Yeah.
that Blockbuster by
Maybe-
us had that room in the back. There was like a door, like a swing door.
Maybe early on.
I think.
Maybe.
I
you know what we're
think.
talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was where they kept the books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the books were. Okay.
Harry
Okay.
Potter
Romantic-
Harry Potter
There
was
probably
hanging
was
out.
a movie called Harry Potter.
Oh gosh.
I will tell you.
Oh gosh.
Do any of you else have experiences other than horror like that?
I mean, I always loved the candy. I just remember going in and there was just
Oh,
the
yeah, I
candy
forgot
and the
about
that.
popcorn and like just the big displays of like the big giant size candy.
I just love buying my used games there. It was so cheap. I was like, yes.
You would buy
yeah.
games
I would buy games at Blockbuster.
when they were like selling them afterwards.
Afterwards, yeah, when
Oh,
they were all
really?
beat up, and I'm just like, I'll take it.
That's where you
But I
started.
guess they did.
That's right.
I think our two go-to constantlys were like League of Their Own and Kindergarten Cop. We'd always get those two. We'd
Oh,
rent
those are
them
good.
because those
Those
are
are
very
really good.
rewatchable movies, and those were nostalgic for us. Yeah.
I heard. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I remember my least favorite thing about rental stores was all the late fees. I was horrible at returning movies.
That's where I was just going with it.
Yeah,
Worse.
I was so bad, and I would just be like, okay, I'm going to return it, and then the next day, and then I think if you missed it by like even minutes, they would be like, oh yeah, it's a full day. Now you got to rent it again. I'm like, dang, that was like $4 more.
And I'm almost positive
Dude.
it's something like somebody Google it, leave it in the comments. I'll pin it. Like 35% or something of their money is late fees. Like it was like
Really?
a massive number
Wow.
is their number of income, and I'm like, that is sad to say, a fantastic business model as far as profit goes. Like, how do we smoke them?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
buy well if they're late 5 minutes. Especially with games, I can't imagine how many late fees you get on games. Because movies, you can pop and be like, okay, there's 30 minutes left. Play it. I have 30 minutes. Games,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
oh,
also
a new
that.
boss, you know.
Right.
There was also that rewind fee. If you didn't rewind it, that's $2.
There was a rewind
There was
fee?
a rewind
Gosh, I
fee.
never
Oh
got
my
hit with
God,
Yeah.
Where were
that's
you
right.
at, bro?
Dude.
Sky Video.
So they were just taxing Ricky.
Dusty on that store.
Yeah, they were just like, oh yeah, another $2 for
They
you,
would
buddy.
nail you.
The one thing that I remembered most about the Blockbuster is the drop-off box.
Yeah, I do
That
love
thing
that.
was
Yeah.
epic, man. And you just put it in
Ricky
there.
has
Who
one.
bought one? Ricky,
I have
you
one.
have one.
Oh, no
Coming to
way.
SoCal.
Drop-off
You said you're going to bring it to SoCal.
I'm gonna bring it to
right?
SoCal. I'm just gonna stick their
Yeah.
ticket in there. Just
That's
I remember my
that's gonna be
Blockbuster
awesome.
had this like makeshift ADU ramp, but it was like rickety, kind of like wood, so you'd step on it and bounce. And I just remember like having like games and like and VHSs in my hand, and my mom was like, "Get out of here, dude!" And I just loved Blockbuster back in the day, man.
It's hitting me nostalgically. I remember one of my favorite things too was like there was almost like pride too in some, not everybody of course, any job, but there was a lot of people who worked there who loved it, right? Like even I remember when I worked at, this guy was kind of like an aspiring like movie critic type guy, so we used to go to him and ask him for suggestions, and we would just trust him. You know, it could be anything. Hey, I remember he gave me the butterfly effect. That was one of the things he gave me. And I remember
great.
just being like, give me a movie and I'll go watch it. And it was so fun it's like your little own virtual room of like someone nowadays, just someone recommending you something.
Which is what like the video game stores offer today. One reason why do people come down? You can buy a lot of the games that we sell online on eBay and Amazon, but that experience, I miss that as well. When you were at the movie store, asking people their opinions, and that's gone. That it's just forever not there anymore.
You hit me with the popcorn and the candy earlier when you said that, by the way. I meant to comment on that. That was such a thing for me. Like you said, like your dad wanted to make it an event, make it a thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a part of your night. Like, we're going to go to Blockbuster. We're going to get
Yeah, you get all the candy, the popcorn, you come home, and then it was like family night because
And
you're
they-
always watching it
They
together.
hit you on the way out because it's like right at the counter.
Smart.
too.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
There was always a Pizza Hut by mine too. I was like, dang it, we're getting. Actually, I was happy.
And I know we said this before, but like, what a time where when you go home, it's the 90s, right? And you have a movie, your whole family's there, nobody's distracted.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at their phone.
That's true.
No notifications are going off. Nobody's off checking their feed. It's it. The movie is your night with your family, with your mom and dad. Dad probably snoring half the time, like my dad. You know, my dad's thing was like, my other buddy does it too now, where he'd be asleep and like try to pretend like he was awake. So he'll see something and like comment on it. But it has like, it's like what's happening in the moment. I'll be like, oh, that gun's really shiny. I love it. And I'm like, okay. Shout out to Dad because I know he listens. So probably falls asleep when Curtis talks on the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, Curtis.
Anyway,